Before the end of 2023, I have been committing to the best Narukami deck. Enter Seal Demon Dragon Oh my god, the lighting. The point is, I'm playing Narukami. What is up, card fighters, and welcome back to the Prime Vanguard channel. In today's video, I'll be showcasing to you my take on Dungaree. Now, this is one of the most infamous Narukami decks in the past because it has such unique playstyle and it's so awkward, but it's like a good awkward. I can't explain it. But Dungaree is actually an extremely explosive deck that I've had the opportunity to play and try, and I'm ready to showcase to you guys on camera too what this deck can do. Sorry if I'm not talking a lot. I know you guys hate when I talk, not in my discussions, but in my deck profiles. So, I mean, yeah, let's just head over to camera 2 and get this deck profile started. Alright, you guys, to get this deck profile started off with, we have the man, the myth, the legend, the biggest Narukami meme I have ever seen, if we're still doing that joke. 4 copies of Seal Demon Dragon Dungaree. Now, Dungaree is a beatstick Vanguard with a hell of a lot of effects. I'm not going to read all of that, but summarize the big points. Which is the fact that its base stats are insane. This card has triple drive, XL, 2 critical, and 17,000 base power. Its effects varies depending on the number of bind cards you are going to put from your bind zone to drop zone, which will trigger certain effects. 2 or less, you lose all of your extra stats, minus 10,000 power, minus 1 crit, minus 2 drive. 4 or more though, you gain benefits. You bind a card from your opponent's hand and recycle 3 cards from your drop zone, shuffle them into your deck. Now, Dungaree being able to do this on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle means that the card itself is actually a really good tool you can play into this deck, which will allow you to... Now, Dungaree's Vanguard or Rearguard Circle ability means that this card works extremely well as a dual Vanguard. You can play in other decks, I've definitely seen it, but we are focusing on a pure variation. I think that Dungaree itself as a Vanguard is kind of fun. It is self-sustaining. It lets you set up your cards that are in your deck to bind zone if your opponent's at grade 3 or higher Vanguard. The 4th and 5th ability are actually pretty impactful. Binding a card from your opponent's hand on top of the fact that we do have some control cards in this deck means that we are getting rid of more of our opponent's key pieces thanks to the ability of Dungaree, as well as the fact that the Vanguard's base stats make it a really good defending and offensive Vanguard. 17k, 2 crit at your opponent on offense turn, and being a 17k body that can hit defensives to push up higher is actually still impactful. Moving on to my next grade 3, I am playing 4 copies of Jaggy Shot Dragoon. While a key Vanquisher supporting card, Jaggy Shot Dragoon's first ability is actually very important for this deck. Being able to bind a card to your hand and knock out one of your opponent's rear guards to control a piece as well as potentially draw a card is extremely important for Dungaree. This is one of the few pieces you have in the deck to let you bind a card from your hand or anywhere on the board for free, as well as getting some sort of free benefit on top of that. Potentially, outside of the control, you may get a draw if your opponent has no front or rear guards, and that's a 50-50 because it isn't a control deck, but it's just another accelerating piece to keep you up with the 5 card requirement bind for Dungaree. Moving on to my grade 2s, I play 4 copy of Exorcist Mage Renren. Now, Renren is a key Dungaree supporting piece. This is your ideal ride target for its on-ride effect, which will let you check top 2, add a card to your hand, as well as bind a card from among them. That automatically helps you set up with your 5 card bind. If you have this and Vanguard out, you are already potentially at 2 or 3, but its second ability is important as well, as this is one of your beatstick pieces, because for a counterblast, you can bind the top card of your deck and convert it into a card draw, or increase this card up by 5 to 10,000 power, or 15,000 depending on the grade of the card bound for the cost. Ideal right target beatstick piece, nothing can really go wrong with Renren. It's one of the key cards you do have to play in this deck to make sure you are meeting your bind requirement, and you definitely want to max out as a 4 of. For my next grade 2, I play 4 copies of Dragon Knight Sharath. Now, Dragon Knight Sharath is one of the defensive pieces for Dungaree. This card has the ability of when placed, you Soul Blast 1, bind 1, draw 1, and if it's on your opponent's turn, your opponent has to bind a card from their hand and they get to draw a card as well. So it's an even exchange for both players, but it does increase the cards they have in their bind zone if you were to, make that count for something, as well as give you more cards bound for easy cost, which is Soul Blasting. On top of the fact this becomes another 14k attacker or 10k shield, with Dungaree really being a 17k base Vanguard, this is another defensive option your deck has. In terms of ratio, I will say this is one of the more flexible cards. You can definitely put this at 2 and play 2 other things, or you can play this at 4 like I am. I'm going to try it out so far. I just really like the fact that it is a defensive piece. That defense effect does come up a lot actually because of how fast other decks are. But I will say it is a slot that you can kind of mingle around with. And for my next supporting card, we have a combo grade 2, which is Lightning Cannon Eradicator Gongsun. Now Gongsun can't activate all of its effects until it has its partner in crime, which is 4 copies of Lightning Gun Eradicator Oban. Now this and this card are the only way you actually get 2 cards bound right away in this deck. It does give you the +2 card draw, which increases your card advantage, as well as the fact that it makes itself a 3k attacker. So putting you at 12 on top of the boosting effect, you're at 20 until you actually read Oban's effect. So outside of giving you more control in this deck, besides Jaggy Shot Dragoon, this card gives you plus 3000 power, 2 card draw, and with its partner in crime, it gives you a 2 card bind. But Oban is just as cool, as this card becomes a 3k booster if this is in the same column. So together they make about, I believe, 11 plus 12, that's 23,000 against your opponent, not a bad number whatsoever. And then it has a counter charge ability to set up for your Gongsun. So thanks to these two, you'll get a counter charge, bind 2, draw 2, and a 23k column prior to other effects. So if you don't have this active prior using this to set up, it's really good setup for Dungaree, as it gives you the 2 card bind right away. Officially moving on to grade 1s, I am playing 4 copies of Exorcist Mage Mew Mew. Now Mew Mew is your deck's ideal grade 1 ride target. This is the card you want to go into thanks to her abilities. Let you look at the top card of your deck and stack it or bind it. 9 times out of 10, regardless of its trigger or not, you're going to bind it. You really want to make sure that first Dungaree turn, you can unlock all of its effects, keep that pressure going onto your opponent. But if not, you have its second ability, which lets you Soul Blast 1 every other turn. This card is on the field. You may bind a card from your hand to draw a new card. A lot of cycling going on with these cards. You really get to filter out for the pieces you need by binding out the pieces you don't want, which helps you draw into your combo like Oban and Gongsun, your control pieces like Jaggy Shot Dragoon, or defensive pieces like Sharaf. For my next grade 1, I play 4 copies of Mighty Bolt Dragoon. This is your Narukami grade 3 searcher, not much to say here. For my next grade 1, I play 1 copy of Desert Gunner Bahan. Now, this is another pseudo Vanquisher support S type of piece, but the reason I'm playing Bahan is because outside of having multiple ways of getting it like Mew Mew, Sharaf, Jaggy Shot, I play Bahan because the key effects that I like, such as Mew Mew and Sharaf, as well as other cards, require a Soul Blast. So in the situation where I need like 1 more piece of soul and I do have to like bind it with anything that doesn't, require soul, I have Bahan to actually use as another superior call with another body on board and getting you a soul charge. Now for my triggers, I'm still in the experimental phase of my Vanquisher list, but I actually think that this has been pretty successful so far. I play Rainbow with 4 Zephyr Kid Hayate, 4 Malevolent Jinn, 4 Wyvern Guard Gould, and then 2 of the Blitz Knuckle Dragon, and 2 Worm Toxin Eradicator Siobo, with my starter finally being Spark Kid Dragoon. I just feel like with all of the effects of Dungaree already having the crit, already having triple drive, your card advantage is fine because all of these cards here, like, they cycle themselves out. Nothing here doesn't draw something, or at least doesn't cycle something out to get another piece. But I realized from my personal experience that these units don't really hit hard. Like, yeah, they swing 14, 23, all like pokey numbers, but the front trigger at least bumps it up by another 10k to make all of your attacks actually scary. And since you're binding a card from your opponent's hand, that's 1 less defensive option they have to work with, and 9 times out of 10, they don't expect the front trigger coming anyway. Your Vanguard already has the crit on it, so they have to be careful of that, and it'll demand a lot of shit from their hand, 2 cards or PG, so that's something you have to worry about. But at least with the Hayate, it makes them have to think about your other rearguard attacks, because now you're swinging for numbers against them that actually matter. And I will say that in this deck, I try to go Excel 1 as much as I possibly can, because of the power problem, but if I can't afford to do it, I'll go Excel 2 naturally. However, I just think that front triggers do hold a place in this deck. I don't see why not. I haven't really found a reason not to. So with that being said, I just think it's important to actually give it a try. Crits because, our Vanguard has a crit already. If you hit 3 crits, 9 times out of 10 you win. Drop PGs because they're the best PGs. And then in all of my V Premium decks, I do the 2-2 split. I actually think that in Dungaree it's a little bit more important because you don't want to get slammed so hard in the early games. You're going to be on a 17k base Vanguard. So having this to actually slow down the game is pretty impactful, on top of the fact that everything is extremely fast. And then Siobo because that'll put your Vanguard at 37,000, which is actually still a really good guard number against a lot of other decks. Ever since I picked this deck up, it's been a really fun experiment. I actually think that Dungaree is a really, cool deck. I think it works as a good supporting Vanguard. As a main deck, it definitely needs one more solid push, you know? I feel like this is on the right train with the combo cards, the defensives. The ride line is good too with Mew Mew and Ren Ren. Jaggy Shot's not bad, but there's not a lot of control in this deck. You really are playing like a beatdown type of strategy and relying Dungaree to do all the pushing for you. Your stuff does make good numbers. You do have defensive options. You do have some control with Jaggy Shot and the Eradicator combo, but it definitely needs one more power boost before it can be considered to be its own deck. But that's my thoughts on Dungaree, you guys. Let me know down in the comments section below. What do you think? How's your Dungaree list? And is it still the strongest Narukami deck? Can it be? I don't know. I don't know if we're still doing that joke in 2023, going on to 2024, but that's where I'm at with it. It's just one of like the fun Narukami decks you can definitely try and mess your opponent with. Alright, you guys, no more fooling around. I'll catch you later. Peace.